next I need to address the situation with the rear wheel, and basically what's happening when I'm going around a corner, I feel suddenly that the wheel was moving like that. I thought it was the tyres, but it's not. It's actually the Paralever pins that go through the back. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change them. So at the moment we've got a pin which goes through, and then that goes into a bearing. It's pros and cons whether a bearing or this scenario is going to be better. The jury's out on that one. What happens is I fit that into the Paralever, this bronze bush here, and then I've got this part here which has got a little slot in it and a hole there. You can grease these with a grease gun. All right, so basically that's sitting in the Paralever, and then this part will sit into there like so. Is this going to be better than bearings? I think there's pros and cons to both of them. I don't really think the bearings are up to it really, because in my eyes, I'm not a mechanic, let's get that one out of the way. Bearings are designed to constantly move around in a circle, whereas these here are going to be better because there'll be more contact area within the parts itself. Yeah, I mean, I think that overall maybe the bushes are better, but like I say, there's pros and cons to both. But the bearings to buy were £90 each, something like that, and I needed two of them, so 180 quid for two, you know, pissy little bearings, excuse the French, pissy little bearings, basically. And this was, I think this was about £90 for this, for both of them. So, I mean, who knows, you know, let's try, you know, as I say, there's no right or wrong with this. I think we've just got to try it and test it and see what it's like. First of all, we need to get the bike tied up. Obviously, you could use rope for this, don't you? Well, and also I'm going to tie up the stand as well, because if I do happen to knock the bike, which is highly unlikely, but if I did knock the bike, then I don't want it coming off its stand. First of all, I'd like to show you, let's grab you and bring you down here, exactly what the problem is. So we've got, can you see that? Yes, you can. We've got a bolt in there, okay, which is the adjustable side. And what that does is that holds the single-sided swing arm, the rear Paralever, into place. All this back end piece here with the rear drive. When it goes around a corner, I feel a great big, it feels like it's jumping. There's actually a 4mm movement. That's not the tyre moving there, that is the wheel as well, okay? You can hear it clunk from side to side. All right, so that's quite unnerving when you're going along. Look at that, look. First of all, let's take the tyre off. This is one of the beauties of a single-sided swing arm. You haven't got the big axle bolt going straight through. It's 4 bolts and off it pops. Now we just need to get rid of the cable tie. Right, so that's off. Let's pull the boot off slowly. I have to heat these up because they got thread lock on them, so what we need to do is melt the thread lock and then quickly take it apart. There you go. Alright, be quick with it, because make sure you get that right. There's that, look. We've got to do the same the other side now. So this time we need the 30mm socket. What I could have done here is I possibly could have just tightened this pin up and it would have tightened up the rear Paralever. However, what you normally find is that once these bolts are gone, then you've only got, you know, it's worn away already. So you know you're going to have to do it sooner or later. So my opinion is just to do this and get it done. But give it a good proper service, get the new bolts on, and hopefully it should be okay for a long, long time. There it pops. There we go. All right, let's give that a good clean up and everything else a good clean up, and then we'll start to put it all back together again. Okay, next up I've got to clear out the old thread lock that was in the threads on both sides of the Paralever. Now to do that, the way I've done it before in the past is I've just bent a nail like so over some pliers, okay? That's just like a panel pin there. And what we'll do is we use the sharp part of the nail just to get right into each thread there, and I can just scrape away at it like so. Another thing I'm going to do actually is I'm just going to tape this hub up, try and stop it turning, just so I know when I put it back on exactly where it was. And what I'll show you here is the bearings. I'm not sure if you can see this. There's lots of indentations where the bearings have been crushing the washer, basically. Bearings are a bit small for the job, really. Right, now for some reason my universal joint has ended up staying in this here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a bar there like that and give it a good sharp blow, and hopefully it'll pop off. Right, now for some reason my universal joint is stuck inside here. So what I'm going to do is put a bit of wood there to protect the... Right folks, quick update. I've had an absolute nightmare trying to free up this joint here, because what I want to do is I want to get some grease on it. So as you can see, it's all dry in there. We need to have that filled up with Moly grease, and also this part, and obviously that's the bit that connects to the gear shaft output there. So that all needs to be greased. I just can't seem to break this spline at the moment. It's stuck so well. I'm tempted just to leave it, but I think really, I mean, I do need to get it apart. Looks like I'm nearly there. Hey! Half an hour later. Come on. Hooray! What a bastard. Okay, so what I've done is I put a little nick in the metal there on this side of the universal joint, and also a small one on there as well. So when I put it all back together again, it's going to be balanced the way it was when it came out of the factory. That's the idea anyway. So I can get all these greased now and give this a, you know, a good going over basically, and a bit of a service. Showing you how I found the best way to reinstall a BMW drive shaft. I'm sure there's many different ways of doing this. Using a bit of this, use some 1.25" solvent waste pipe, and what I could do then was I could fish this onto the shaft itself and then maneuver it. What I found was to the top left corner, wiggle it around, and then get it onto the spline. Let's knock out the old bearings now. Same on the other side. Put it on the bench there and very carefully whack it in. That's one in. There you go, we're in. 3 hours later. Yeah, 3 bloody hours. Right, so what's happened was it was giving me a lot of grief, because the spline here, this was the one that was seized up, which goes onto that one there, and basically this spline needs to pretty much go right up to the top here, and what was happening is it was only going on so far, and so it was leaving me 10 or 15 millimeters short from where it needed to be in the housing. So what I had to do was I had to take it all out again, basically give this a good going over with a wire brush. Right pain it was still tight, and even now it's a little bit tighter than what I'd like, but it is sliding on and off quite nicely. Alright, so while I'm talking to you, I might as well try and get this back together. Right, is it a job for a beginner? I would say not now. Well, no, it's definitely not a job for a beginner. But even a intermediate might struggle with this. I mean, I have a bit, and I've had, you know, quite a bit of experience with mechanical stuff. And doing. Oh, that was quick. That's the quickest that's happened so far. All right, so what was happening before was these hose here, bronze bushes, were not lining up, and I was 10 or 15 mil too short. It needed to go in a lot more. Right, let's get the fixed pin into place first and located. Then we can work off of that then. Yeah, 3 hours it took me to sort out that shaft. I wonder why on all the other videos I've seen it was, they just flopped out, you know, easy peasy. Whereas mine was really seized up. What I'll do is I'll just get the other side located as well. Right, what we're going to do now is stick some lock thread on the other side. Right, thread lock is on. I'm using blue. Right, so we just put the bolt in the Paralever bar there, but we're only putting it loose for now. And my torque wrench is set at 150 Newton meters. Right, now what we want to do here, there's no specific torque settings for this. So what we don't want to do is do it up too tight and push the bushing through the bar. So what we're going to do, I mean, if this was in bearings now, in the old BMW bearings, then we'd be doing up to between 10 and 12 Newton meters of torque. This one here, we're just going to do it. There you go, I can feel it now. We want it to pretty much support its own weight. There we go. Just about there. As I say, I can't really teach you this stuff because you need to be here to get a feel of it. Yeah, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Right, let's get that thread lock off. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave that drying for a little while, that Loctite. And when I come back, I know that it's going to be much drier and less likely to turn when I put the lock nut on. Okay, next up is the lock nut. I've put the Loctite on again. Going to do this one up to 105 Newton meters of torque. Anything that uses Loctite, you need to hurry up and get on with it because it does suddenly set on you pretty damn quick. So remember, that's 105 Newton meters. And you see I put a little blue mark there just to make sure that this didn't turn when I done up the nut here. Right, 45 Newton meters of torque. Right, so this is a nylon tie here made just for this job. Some people do double up their own, but I think this is a far better way of doing it, to be honest with you. Don't forget your spacer. Best way to do this is locate two and then sort the rest out after. Right, 4 bolts on, do them up to 50 Newton meters of torque first off. And then we'll jack it up to 105. Do it in a star formation, so do one side and then do the opposite. It doesn't really matter, but it's good practice. So these are set at 40 Newton meters of torque. Doesn't seem tight enough sometimes, does it? Let's check that rear wheel wobble as well, see what that's like. Absolutely nothing at all. Beautiful. Very last job is to grease up the grease nipples, like so. Give it a good squish, just one pump should do it. Pretty sure that's done it already, actually. Then put the blanking plug in. Like I say, these parts are available from Motorworks, okay? And these blanking plugs do come with the kit. Right, that's it. So let's quickly run through some of the tools which I needed. I would have been stuck without that vise. That was a really, really handy tool to have, mainly because of the seized drive shaft. We have the gas here for melting the Loctite. You can use a hairdryer or some description, but this stuff is much better and it targets the actual bolt a lot easier. A grease gun with the Moly grease inside of it, the Castrol stuff. An assortment of spanners, which I mainly use the 16 and the 17 and 19 mil spanners. And also the 24 mil one to when I was hitting the drive shaft to try and split it apart. So that come in very handy. All of these products I'm going to put a link to, okay? Or the ones that I can put a link to, I will do. So like this spanner set here, it's a very good set, well worthwhile. The ruler, which is very, very good as well for locating the drive shaft. That was very useful. And the Amazon Basic socket set, which was fantastic again. And I basically used the 3/8 drive and the 1/2 inch drive on that one, and a few of the sockets, mainly I think it was a 14mm and the 17mm I used on this project. We got the hex here as well, which was for the drive pins. That is a 12mm hex, a 30mm socket for the Paralever pins, and a H8 socket for the brake caliper removal. I've also got the two Draper torque wrenches, which I couldn't have been without, of course. Now, I'll be quite honest with you, it's the first time in my mechanical history that I've used torque wrenches. Normally, I just never had one before, so I never used it. It's never caused me a problem, but with the sensitivity of the alloys that I've been working with, like putting the pins into the rear swing arm here, I needed to get that torque to the correct setting rather than just guessing. So it was quite important to have in this case. Okay, so that's it. So is this a job for you if you're a beginner mechanic and haven't had much experience before? The answer to that is a definite no. It seems very simple, but if you run into problems like a seized drive shaft, which absolutely, in my case, it really made the project a lot more difficult, then you need to have the right stuff. I mean, for example, having my vise was a perfect example of that. It really was difficult to deal with. If you're an intermediate, yes, you might be able to do it, but again, you got to stick by the rules. I think that's the important thing here. If, for example, like what happened to me, you're locating the Paralever pins and they're not quite meeting up, or you feel a bit of tension, it's so tempting just to keep on cranking it up, isn't it? But you really cannot do that in this case, because if you kill your rear swing arm, it's going to be a costly mistake. And as with all things BMW, as we all know, it is expensive for parts, so you just cannot take any risks. And there's so many things doing a project like this which can go wrong. Now, I'm saying that, and I'm not a mechanic, as we all know. I'm just somebody who's an intermediate home mechanic. If this was Chris Harris, if you haven't seen his videos, then check him out on YouTube. He is absolutely brilliant. He's a proper trained BMW technician, and his videos are fantastic. I'm not trying to pretend I'm him. I'm just me in the garage, and just like Joe Blogs, maybe just like you. And I'm just trying to learn new skills all the time along the way. So if you could hit the subscribe button, that'd be great. And even more importantly, just to take the pain out of what I've been going through to do this, if you could just hit the like button, that would be absolutely awesome. And I put a video out every Friday, so it'd be great to have you along the way. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next Friday. Thanks for joining me.